What is going on, everybody? Good afternoon, and welcome to a Tuesday, April 30th edition of Established to Run's NBA Injury Analysis Show. I am Mark Dankenbring, joined here, as always, by with Mike Gallagher. We've got some Game 5s on tap here for the last day of April, and despite only 3 games on the schedule, tons of injury news to get to with these 3 games. So always great to have Mike here. Mike, how you doing after we closed out a series bet last night on OKC? And the Nuggets -1.5, feeling good today. How's it
Mhm.
going?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. Potentially a couple more bets we had with the Pacers and Knicks could take care of business. Could give us an off day on Thursday, and then I don't even know what to do with Cleveland anymore. And we'll see if still just the Dallas game tomorrow. I'm very excited for that one. But fun slate today. All Eastern Conference. It'll be an early night tonight, so should be pretty fun.
For sure. And for that Cleveland Magic game tonight, Game 5, series tied 2-2, we will be doing a special playback on Tuesday tonight. So that'll get started at 8:30 Eastern time. That's going to be our scheduled start time. If we can get started, right at tip, right around 8 to 8:10 Eastern time, we will. So that'll be at playback.tv/ETR. Be Mike, myself, and Sam Jaffarinia. And we'll have some League Pass passes to give out if you guys can't access the NBA TV game. I think we should have some League Pass things to give out there as well, and you guys can watch the game along with us. We've had some live bets, pretty much all streams that we've done the last few weeks, and those have gone well. So hopefully you can find a few more of those, and then just watch the Cavs and Magic battle it out in Game 5 tonight. So again, playback.tv/ETR. All right, let's get started though in New York, where we have the Knicks potentially closing up the series at home, taking a 3-1 lead back to the Garden. On the Sixers side, we have Robert Covington still listed out here. Kelly Oubre is probable with an illness. It was noted that he did not attend shoot around this morning, but should be good to go tonight, listed probable here. And then Joel Embiid, questionable with left injury knee management and also a migraine. So any insight here on the Philly side? Obviously, we know they're not the most reliable when it comes to injury reporting, but what's your read here on Philly and mainly the Embiid situation, obviously, since he's the focal point of this team?
Yeah, I mean, do you think he's going to play through a migraine and just deal with it? He's been dealing with all sorts of. I mean, God, what could it get any worse? He's got this knee thing that keeps bothering him. Woj mentioned he has Bell's palsy he's dealing with right now. He got the migraine right now. Just running into so much bad luck here from a health status. So you would expect him to play, but who knows? Maybe he just can't. Maybe he can't physically play. So that would be a catastrophe. I would be jamming Knicks stuff live, or if I could beat the news, that line's going to probably move like 5 points or more.
Hmm.
So I'll be in on that, but expecting him to play. If not, for some reason, it would be Paul Reed, Nick Batum picking up a bunch of run, and we'll see if they get Mo Bamba a handful of minutes here. And again, their offense would probably just crater. Tyrese Maxey would be taking a ton of shots. You mentioned Kelly Oubre also did not attend shoot around. Probable tag. Treating him more like a questionable tag, honestly. We'll see if he can go. He's been playing pretty well. Been one of the primary weapons on Jalen Brunson. Brunson has kind of popped off a lot lately, though. But yeah, and then there's a little bit of buzz about Tobias Harris possibly losing his starting job. Just as kind of something different here. It would be in favor of Nick Batum. So I'll be watching that. But obviously, Embiid status, the biggest story of the night.
For sure. And if Tobias was to be removed from the starting lineup, we would get that information since this is the first game of the night and those starting lineups come out generally about a half hour before tip. So we should know if he's out of the starting lineup. But, just given his play in this series, we could see his minutes dial back. And I'm sure you and Drew will hit on that more on the DFS show tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern time behind the paywall. So we'll leave kind of more of that discussion for you two later. On the Knicks side, few injuries to address here as well, as Bojan Bogdanovic left last game and is now listed out with a left foot sprain. So that opens up some minutes off the bench for the Knicks. We still have Julius Randle out for the Knicks, obviously. And then a couple of probable tags here on Jalen Brunson with a right knee contusion and Jericho Sims. And then a questionable tag here on Mitchell Robinson, which is relatively important now that Bojan is out. We kind of have this, little dance of Precious Achiuwa playing the 4 or backup 5. So curious just your thoughts here on the ramifications of Bojan's injury and how you expect the Knicks rotation to go tonight in this potential closeout game.
Yeah, I don't think Boyan's a huge deal. Probably the biggest takeaway is OG Anunoby's minutes are locked and loaded. We saw earlier in the series, Boyan kind of cut him down a little bit, and then OG was fantastic. Had one of the best offensive rebounds of the game. Obviously, his defense on Embiid was a pretty big story. He's done that before. Um, Interestingly enough, Nick Nurse deployed him in that role a ton last year. So yeah, very familiar with it. Again, it was really, really good. OG is capable of guarding anyone in the NBA. So and then Isaiah Hartenstein, we saw him pick up 5 fouls in just the third quarter. He was headed for big minutes before those fouls came. So yeah, should note Mitch Robinson did warm up. Woj had noted that he was kind of expected to play, but um, it didn't go well at the warm up. Left the arena in a walking boot. So
Oh, wow.
pretty unlikely he was going to play. We docked him a couple minutes just because the in-game risk is so high. This is the same ankle that he had surgery on, where the Knicks almost put him out for the year and get the disabled player exception, but they opted not to do that. So, pretty high risk that he's very managed here. They might try to battle him in there, but not great. Only one game off since the Sunday game, so. Very, very game. He's going to be game time decision, I think, regardless, but could definitely miss. Obviously, that would benefit Precious, who played pretty well. A couple big offensive rebounds for him late in the game, and then they probably just tighten up again. I think the most likely outcome would be they just run seven. The starting five, Deuce, who would play a ton still, and then Precious would cover the seven. Maybe they squeak in Alec Burks for some minutes, but we know Tibbs. I mean, very likely we get upper 40s out of Hart, Brunson, OG. And then, how much could Dante play? Should know Dante's minutes were real bigger trouble than they were. He may have not played in the fourth at all, if not for Jalen Brunson going to the locker room for a minor injury. Should mention Brunson is good to go. He says he's going to play. Obviously, he's awesome, driving like 33 times a game in his last two in the series. It's outrageous how much he's driving. So, but yeah, feel pretty good that we're going to have seven for sure. And then it's a matter of Mitch Robinson, who I expect to be game time.
Cool. I would agree with the 7 note there, especially since you mentioned Dante DiVincenzo's minutes getting cut down a little bit. I think, he would just pick up a few more rather than Alec Burks getting out there, especially
Yep.
especially in a closeout, game at home. I would expect Tibbs to run this just about as tight as possible.
Yep.
All right, let's head to that Orlando and Cleveland game. Again, the series tied 2-2 here. Both teams have taken care of business on their home floor, so we are back in Cleveland for Game 5 tonight. The Magic do not have anybody listed on the injury report, but we did see in Orlando that they went back to Wendell Carter Jr. starting over Jonathan Isaac. So just curious if you think that will continue tonight as they head back to Cleveland.
Yeah, I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't roll with it again. They've won 2 games with it. They got their ass kicked in 2 games without it. So it seems pretty straightforward. You get more size out of Wendell Carter Jr., a little bit more shooting component there. Just seems to be better established with his size to handle the Cavs. And again, the headlines is just working. So you have that. The guards rebounded pretty nicely. Markel Fultz had a really impactful game in Game 4. Cole Anthony rebounded a little bit. So, yeah, starting lineup the same. Isaac, Mo Wagner, Fultz, and Cole. That should be the 9. We'll see if they sprinkle in Joe Ingles. He got cut out in the second half. But I think that's their core 9. And then Franz Wagner just taking it to Max Strus most of this games in this series. Been very, very good with his drive game has really stepped up as Powell has struggled mostly. He had a big Game 3 against Evan Mobley, but Mobley had some rough spots in Orlando. You saw JB Bickerstaff like yelling at him. We'll talk about the Cavs in a second. But yeah, feel pretty good. They're going to go into this running it back. And then from a schematic standpoint, the big adjustment they made was Jalen Suggs. He went from guarding Darius Garland in the Cleveland games to guarding Donovan Mitchell in the 2 Orlando games, and it was a pretty big impact. Donovan airballed, I think barely scored in the second half. So expect that to happen again for Donovan Mitchell to steal out of Suggs.
Sounds good. On the Cavs side, relatively straightforward injury report here. We have Dean Wade, Craig Porter Jr., and Ty Jerome still listed out. And then Jared Allen popped up midday here with a questionable tag for right rib contusion. So no strain or sprain here for Jared Allen. So, contusion typically more of like a pain tolerance type thing. Obviously, in the ribs for a big man, not great when you're battling down low, especially with all the Magic size. But any concern here on Jared Allen's availability tonight and just any insight on the Cavs in general as they head back home?
Yeah, I got nothing. Did you see anything on this other than the injury report? I have not seen anything from Allen himself, from Bickerstaff. I know you're deep in.
No,
I
I
didn't notice
no, I
anything on
have
that.
not seen
So,
anything, any other update other than just
yeah,
listed on the report.
yeah, probably just took an elbow or something. I mean, he's gonna go right. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I'd be pretty shocked if he doesn't play. Again, the size from Wendell Carter Jr. took away some of his impact. He's still having, I would say, the best series of any Cavalier on this game. And then Darius Garland been quite bad. Mobley's been, again, I mentioned the bad plays, gambling too much. Took a couple bad shots with like some running hooks and stuff that Bickerstaff got kind of tilted on over the weekend. So, but yeah, expecting that to happen. Does Max Strus hold his minutes? As I mentioned, he's beginning torched, not having any sort of impact offensively. Bad matchup, which we've mentioned for the catch and shoot stuff that Orlando doesn't give up. So there's that. We know that 8 is probably going to be the starters. George Niang, perhaps George Niang's in some hot water. He's played quite poorly defensively. Okoro, Levert are locks, but I wouldn't be surprised to see if Okoro gets reined in. Maybe they play Marcus Morris instead. We saw Sam Merrill pop in and out every once in a while. And then, yeah, Tristan Thompson, is another guy that the Beats had mentioned he could sneak in there. But I think that the, hashtag play better would be the biggest adjustment because they were just a complete disaster in the 2 Orlando games.
Definitely. And I think on the Magic side, we saw Joe Ingles get cut down a little bit
Mm.
in games 3 and 4, which I think makes it tougher to play George Niang and even get someone
Mhm.
like Sam Merrill out there, because Ingles at this point is kind of the easiest guy just to, stick someone on and hide them defensively. So if
Mhm.
he does continue to play, whatever, I think he only got one stint last game, then I do think that hurts Niang's upside, because he's kind of in no man's land. Can't really guard Paolo, even though Bickerstaff
Yeah.
was throwing on him early, and just not too many, too slow to guard the guards in the second unit as well there for
Yeah.
Orlando.
Yeah. 17 3-point attempts in an NBA game in 2024. You just can't cut it, man. It's just embarrassing.
Hmm. All right, let's head to the last game of the slate tonight with plenty more injury news on tap as the Indiana Pacers head to Milwaukee to try and close out the Bucks here tonight. On the Pacers side, Benedict Mathurin remains out, and then Tyrese Halliburton is listed questionable with those low back spasms. He did seem to make it through the game okay, but was, anytime he was subbed out, had a big wrap on his low back, and it sounded
Mhm.
like some real concern over, whether he was even going to be able to play. So now you add in the
Yeah.
travel elements and just only one game in between these games. So any insight here on Halliburton and his back, and any other notes on the Pacers?
Yeah, should be good, I think. Jeremiah Johnson, who does a lot of work for the Indiana broadcast, asked Tyrese Halliburton about his pregame back spasms, and he said, "quote My back just locked up. I couldn't really move. Thank God for our amazing medical staff. There was a hot second where I didn't think I'd be able to play. Just glad to be out there on the floor." So he was hurt, and he could have missed this one that popped up out of nowhere. So this was kind of a day of injury for him. Minutes were capped a little bit. I thought he looked great. I think he looked great because Patrick Beverley's minutes were down a little bit. We'll talk about him in a second. But we took a little off the top on his minutes. We saw him, hit 40s, but I'm a little bit concerned with his minute ceiling output overall. Obviously, that would be good for TJ McConnell. Andrew Nemhard almost played the whole second half, if not for some garbage time late. He's been playing very, very, very well. We saw Pascal Siakam have a little bit of a adjustment matchup wise, which we'll talk more about on the show later. And then Aaron Nesmith playing a bunch. Miles Turner just owning this team. So, and then the rotation's been the same. They're running the starting 5: Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, and Ben Shepherd for their 8. Expect that to run again since they switched to game 2. They've won them all. So, very little reason to think that they aren't going to run their 8 out there. Obviously, if Halliburton did play, and I'd be very surprised if he didn't play, I'd be very surprised if it was like TJ like okay. So 2 things. One, if he's playing, I'm pretty confident in that. If he's not, it would
Yeah.
be TJ McConnell starting. He'd play a ton. He'd be like the DFS play on the slate. But I'm pretty confident Halliburton's going to play.
Yeah, sounds good. And it'll be interesting to see if this Pacers hot shooting from game 4, especially, can
Mhm.
transfer over to game 5 here in Milwaukee. They were just dialed in and
Yeah.
absolutely splashing. Like not many rims touched on their 3-point attempts. Miles Turner was splashing, Halliburton pulling up in transition. When Hallie pulls up in transition and has that confidence roll, and the Pacers are tough to beat there. So, but they will be dealing with a depleted Bucks team on the other side still, as Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard are both doubtful again tonight, so we are not expecting to see them here in Game 5. Chris Middleton and Patrick Beverley are both listed probable on the injury report. Beverley is listed with a right oblique strain, and then Middleton with a right ankle sprain. I think Middleton could probably be listed with both ankles at this point if they wanted to. But the Bucks just banged up here in general. And then any insight here on the Bucks? It was a little bit of a tough game to pull many conclusions from, just because Bobby Portis got ejected in the first quarter. We didn't really get to see a sub pattern here on the Milwaukee side. Just curious your thoughts on Milwaukee and how they intend to flip this series and take Game 5 at home.
Yeah, really costly Bobby ejection. I'll get to that. Let's talk injuries first. Obviously, Dame and Giannis, the reporting's pretty bleak. They're obviously going to be almost certainly out today and then probably out for the series. It sounds like Dame is kind of further away based on some of the reporting. So they're going to have to win 3 straight, very, very shorthanded, extremely. Well, I think the Pacers are like minus 1,200 or something to win the series on the betting markets. But yeah, so they're going to have to roll with Malik Beasley again. Malik Beasley boosted from the Bobby Portis situation. I think that really helped his minutes floor. Generally was on thin ice, man, like almost out of the rotation in the second half, just earlier in the series. So he'll start. We'll see what kind of leash he has. Chris Middleton's been freaking great playing through that ankle injury. We saw him get dinged up a couple games ago. Not the same ankle that bothered him last month. So should be good for a pretty big role, 40 minutes. In this one, it just has to play a ton. He's handling huge, like 6.5 minutes handling role. Bobby Portis, tough ejection, but like you can't do that, man. They're going to toss you for that. And then Brook Lopez also kind of benefited. A lot of Brook post ups. That's not Brook's game. He doesn't post up nearly as much as he used to as his Nets days. So I expect that to dial back. We know there's some quotes from Doc Rivers saying they did want to kind of get Bobby Portis more post touches. So I think Bobby's kind of going into a pretty good spot here, even though they did kind of flip the matchups a little bit overall. So the next, perhaps the toughest question is like, who fills in off the bench? We saw Andre Jackson, one of the most impactful role players for them, adds speed and athleticism that I think they need. He might be the lead dog for the bench pieces. Pat Connaughton, probably the safest bet for minutes. They like AJ Green. They like putting AJ Green on TJ McConnell. I think that's kind of stable. And then we'll see what happens to Jay Crowder. We saw Danilo Gallinari get dusted off for some minutes here. So this is bad, man. Like if this game, I'm almost surprised the spread's only like 4.5, but home court pretty valuable. But Pacers have a much superior roster options going into this game.
Definitely. Will be interesting to see. I mean, man, what a wild season for the Bucks here after the in-season change of Doc Rivers and then just how everything has unfolded. Really going to be interesting to see how they answer this offseason since, as you mentioned, the Pacers minus 1,200 to win this series at this point. So interesting offseason upcoming here for the Bucks.
And I did miss the Beverly note. Really quick on Beverly. He did have an oblique injury after the game. Doc Rivers called it a rib injury. So yeah, not great, man. That's anybody's ever had that it's not good, man. Like it restricts his mobility. His shorts got shortened. Stints got shortened. Tough. We dinged him pretty good. I think we landed at 32 minutes. He had upper 30s upside, but could not get out there for very long. Again, he's going to try. I'm sure he's going to talk about how hard it was to play in his podcast, but some major limitations. And then it was just massive Middleton handling role. So again, probable tags. This would have almost certainly been a questionable tag in the regular season, but legit injury for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. Oblique, so crucial to pretty much everything you do out on the basketball court. So certainly not a very easy injury to fight through. All right, that will do it for this edition of the Established Run NBA Injury Analysis Show. As always, we ask for your support in promoting this free content by liking the video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. We are just shy of 100 subscribers to reach our end of season goal of 5,000. So if you have not yet subscribed, please take the 2 seconds to go below this video, like and subscribe. It really does help us out a lot to keep this content free and keep this information flowing. Again, if you would like to watch the game, Cavs Orlando Magic game tonight, we'll be on playback.tv/ETR. And then if you would like access to our behind the paywall content where we have Drew and Mike on the DFS show tonight and also a props package that has been humming here the last 8 days or so, you can head to establishedrun.com /subscribe-MBA to get access to our packages there. Discounted prices, obviously, as we were in the playoffs and heading towards the end of the regular season, but still a lot of value to be had, especially on the player prop side, as our projections are extremely dialed in at this point with, our full team working and continuing to grind all the edges here as the playoffs continue. That'll do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you don't want to wait till then, you can definitely catch us on playback tonight. But good luck to everyone out there tonight. Hopefully the Cavs can bring it home in Game 5. All right, see you guys.